Here. Ma'am, stop right there. Can I see some identification?
Officer, what's the issue? I'm Dr. Sharma. I just left the clinic.
You're being evasive. I need to see your ID now.
I don't understand why you need my ID. I haven't committed any offense.
This is a lawful order. Failure to comply will result in further action.
I'm a medical doctor. This feels...
The rain had just begun to fall, a cold, indifferent drizzle washing over the polished granite of the Los Angeles County Courthouse. Inside, a different kind of storm was brewing, one that would expose the raw nerves of systemic bias and challenge the very definition of authority. This is a story of how a routine workday became a public reckoning, a moment when the badge of prosecutor met the bias of security guard, shattering the illusion that credentials alone could shield anyone from the indignities of prejudice. Today, we delve into the deeply disturbing case of security guard David Albright, an individual whose professional conduct had, for years, been marked by a deeply troubling pattern of behavior. According to internal records obtained through a Freedom of Information Act request, Albright had accumulated no fewer than 11 formal complaints lodged against him during his tenure with Sentinel Solutions, the private security firm contracted by the county. 11 complaints. 11. Each one detailing instances of excessive force, verbal abuse, or discriminatory profiling. This wasn't an isolated incident. It was a deeply ingrained modus operandi. His target on that fateful day was Assistant District Attorney Lena Harmon, a woman whose life had been a testament to relentless dedication and a profound commitment to justice. Her legal career, spanning over a decade, was adorned with accolades, her name synonymous with integrity and meticulous preparation. Yet, on that Tuesday morning, as she attempted to enter her place of work, her professional standing, her impressive career, her very identity were dismissed, questioned, and ultimately disrespected by a man who held a position of perceived authority, but who wielded it with an alarming lack of judgment. Before we continue, where are you watching from? Take a moment to drop a comment below and let us know. Your engagement helps us bring these critical stories to a wider audience, shining a light on the injustices that persist, even in the most unexpected corners of our society. This isn't just about one incident. It's about the pervasive issues that undermine trust and erode the foundations of fairness for us all. It was a Tuesday, October 17th, just past 8:30 in the morning. The kind of crisp autumn day that occasionally graces Southern California, a stark contrast to the simmering tension that would soon erupt. The air in downtown Los Angeles was still cool, carrying the faint scent of exhaust fumes and the promise of a busy day. Commuters hurried along Grand Avenue, their faces a mosaic of determination and early morning weariness. The towering glass and steel structures of the Civic Center complex glinted under a pale, brightening sky, reflecting the relentless energy of the city. Inside the grand, imposing facade of the Los Angeles County Courthouse, the atmosphere was usually one of measured gravity, a silent hum of legal proceedings and bureaucratic functions. But on this particular morning, that calm was about to be profoundly disturbed. Assistant District Attorney Lena Harmon arrived precisely at 8:37 a.m. Her professional journey was a powerful narrative of perseverance and intellectual brilliance. Born and raised in the historically underserved community of South Los Angeles, Lena had navigated a path few from her neighborhood ever dared to dream of. She was a first-generation college graduate, earning her undergraduate degree in political science from UCLA with summa cum laude honors, a testament to her disciplined mind and unwavering focus. From there, her ambition led her to Yale Law School, where she excelled, graduating in the top 5% of her class. Her legal career began not in the corporate towers, but in public service, first as a public defender, driven by a deep-seated belief in equitable representation. After 5 years, she transitioned to the district attorney's office, specializing in complex felony cases, particularly those involving public corruption and civil rights violations. She had earned her position, not through privilege or connections, but through sheer merit, relentless effort, and an unblemished record of upholding the law. She was known for her meticulous attention to detail, her sharp legal mind, and her unshakable composure under pressure. Her colleagues respected her, her superiors trusted her, and her courtroom victories were often cited in legal journals. She was, in every sense, a pillar of the legal community. Then there was security guard David Albright. His employment record, a dark counterpoint of Harmon's distinguished career, painted a disturbing picture of an individual ill-suited, for a position of public trust and authority. The 11 complaints against him weren't mere administrative footnotes. They were vivid accounts of a pattern of abuse. In April of 2018, Albright was cited for excessive force after an incident involving a homeless man seeking shelter in the courthouse lobby. According to witness statements and internal reports, Albright had aggressively shoved a man, who was clearly disoriented, causing the fall and sustain a minor head injury. The internal investigation, a perfunctory affair, concluded with a written warning, a slap on the wrist for a clear violation of protocol. Just 8 months later, in December 2018, another complaint emerged. A Latina mother attempted to enter the courthouse with her elderly, wheelchair-bound father for a family court hearing, reported that Albright had subjected them to an unnecessarily prolonged and humiliating search, demanding identification multiple times, despite their clear badges for court visitors. She stated he made disparaging remarks about their inability to speak fluent English, even though her father presented a valid California ID. Again, the outcome was a mere counseling session, an inadequate response that emboldened Albright rather than corrected his behavior. The pattern solidified in late 2019. A black attorney, attempting to bypass the public line with his bar card, was aggressively challenged by Albright, who accused him of attempting to jump the line and flash a fake ID. The attorney, a seasoned litigator, calmly presented his credentials, yet Albright escalated the confrontation, demanding secondary forms of identification and threatening to call LAPD. Only the intervention of a passing supervisor diffused the situation, but no formal disciplinary action was taken against Albright beyond a note in his file. These incidents, among others, painted a chillingly consistent portrait. Albright targeted individuals based on perceived vulnerabilities, racial background, or simply a desire to exert control, and his employers, Sentinel Solutions, consistently failed to hold him accountable. The pattern was clear, a roadmap to the very confrontation that was about to unfold. The call to dispatch, according to later police reports, came in at 8:40 a.m. It was from security guard David. Albright himself, his voice tinged with manufactured urgency, described an unidentified individual attempting to bypass security with suspicious credentials. He claimed the individual was uncooperative and refusing to comply with lawful instructions. The dispatch operator, following standard protocol, logged the call as a security breach attempt, immediately elevating perceived threat level. This initial, biased description, detached from reality, set the stage for the escalating confrontation. Meanwhile, Assistant District Attorney Lena Harmon, utterly unaware of the narrative being spun about her, was engaged in her normal morning activity. She approached the employee entrance, a familiar ritual she had performed thousands of times over the past decade. The brisk morning air still clung to her as she reached for her official county employee badge, clipped neatly to her lanyard. It was a standard-issue ID, featuring her photograph, name, title, and the official seal of the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office. She held it out, ready to scan, her mind already anticipating the day's docket. A complex appeal hearing scheduled for 10 a.m. It was mundane, legitimate, and entirely routine. As she presented her badge, security guard David Albright stepped forward, blocking her path. His eyes, cold and scrutinizing, fixated not on the clear identifying features of her badge, but on Lena herself. "Hold on there, ma'am," he said, his tone immediately dismissive, laced with an undertone of suspicion. "Let me see that." Lena, accustomed to professional, courteous interactions with the dozens of other security personnel, simply extended her badge further. "Assistant District Attorney Harmon," she stated, her voice calm and clear, "I'm heading in for my 10 a.m. hearing." Albright snatched the badge, examining it with an exaggerated slowness. "Assistant District Attorney, huh?" he scoffed, a sneer twisting his lips. "Anyone can fake that these days. You got another form of ID." Lena felt a prickle of indignation, but maintained her composure. "My badge is my official identification, Mr. Albright. I've used it here for years." She reached into her purse for her driver's license, though she knew it was unnecessary for courthouse entry. Should officers verify credentials with excessive scrutiny based on their personal biases, or should official identification be sufficient for entry into a secure facility for authorized personnel? This question, though unspoken, hung heavy in the air, a testament to the absurdity of the situation. Before she could produce her driver's license, Albright shook his head, pushing her badge back towards her, not handing it. Nah, that ain't gonna cut it. You look familiar, but not like any ADA I've seen around here. You need to go through the public entrance and get a visitor's pass. His words were a direct assault on her professional identity, a deliberate act of invalidation. Lena's patience began to fray. I am Assistant District Attorney Lena Harmon. My name is on the docket. I have a hearing in less than an hour. I am an employee of this building. Her voice, though still controlled, now carried an edge of firm authority. Albright, however, seemed to relish the confrontation. I don't care who you say you are, lady. You're not getting past me with that fake ID. The rapid-fire exchange drew the attention of other courthouse employees and a few early-arriving members of the public. Whispers started. Phones began to subtly emerge from pockets, recording the unfolding drama. A small crowd started to gather, their faces a mixture of confusion and concern. She's an 8A. I've seen her, someone murmured. Another voice added, What's his problem? Albright, emboldened by the growing audience, puffed out his chest. Listen here. You can stand here all day, but you're not getting in. Unless you want to call the real police and have you escorted out for trespassing. Just as attention reached its breaking point, a figure emerged from the depths of the employee entrance. It was Supervisor Robert Jensen, Albright's direct superior from Sentinel Solutions. Jensen, a man in his late 50s with a weary demeanor, had been alerted by a junior guard who had witnessed the escalating dispute. He took in the scene, Albright, belligerent and red-faced Lena Harmon, standing tall but visibly distressed, and the growing crowd of onlookers. Jensen immediately recognized Harmon. Albright, what in God's name is going on here? He barked, his voice cutting through the noise. He turned to Lena. Ms. Harmon, I am so deeply sorry. Please go right in. He then turned back to Albright, his face a mask of exasperation. Your badge and weapon, Albright. Now, you're off duty. Immediately. The words hung heavy in the air, signaling an immediate, albeit temporary, resolution to the immediate crisis. The confrontation had ended, but the fallout was just beginning. The immediate resolution saw Lena Harmon finally granted entry to her workplace, albeit shaken and deeply humiliated. Supervisor Jensen, visibly mortified by Albright's conduct, had not only relieved the guard of duty on the spot, but personally escorted Harmon to her office, offering profuse apologies and assurances that the matter would be dealt with swiftly and severely. But the damage had been done. The indignity seared into Harmon's professional and personal consciousness. The incident, however, was far from over. It had merely shifted from the physical space of the courthouse entrance to the sprawling, unforgiving arena of public scrutiny. Should officers or anyone in a position of public authority face automatic termination for clear instances of racial profiling or abuse of power, especially when a pattern of prior complaint exists? This question, posed implicitly by the unfolding events, would soon become a rallying cry across social media platforms. Because, unknown to Albright or even Supervisor Jensen in the immediate aftermath, the entire confrontation had been captured. Multiple angles from various cell phones documented Albright's aggressive posture, his dismissive tone, his outright refusal to acknowledge Lena Harmon's clear credentials. One particularly damning video, shot by an intern waiting for a colleague, showed Albright explicitly stating, "Anyone can fake that," while gesturing disparagingly at Harmon's badge, followed by his threat to call the real police. The intern, a young woman named Maya Rodriguez, posted the video to her Twitter account at 9:15 a.m. with the caption, "Security guard at L.A. County Courthouse harassing black ADA. This is insane." The video exploded. Within an hour, it had garnered over 50,000 views. By noon, it had been retweeted by prominent civil rights activists, legal commentators, and local news anchors. By the end of the day, the hashtag Justice for Lena and hashtag Prosecutor Harass were trending nationwide. The video accumulated over 10 million views in the first 24 hours across various platforms: Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. News outlets scrambled to cover the story, amplifying the outrage. The narrative was clear. A black professional, a pillar of the justice system, had been subjected to racial profiling and blatant disrespect by someone entrusted with public safety. The comments sections were a torrent of fury, solidarity, and calls for accountability. People share their own experiences of similar treatment, intertwining Harmon's story with a broader, painful tapestry of everyday racism. The institutional responses were swift, if initially defensive. Sentinel Solutions, the private security firm, issued a boilerplate statement expressing regret and promising a thorough internal investigation. The Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office, however, took a much stronger stance. District Attorney Eleanor Vance, Lena Harmon's boss, publicly condemned Albright's actions, calling them an egregious affront of justice and professionalism, and vowing to support Harmon in every possible way. Within days, Lena Harmon, represented by the prestigious civil rights law firm of Miller and Associates, filed a landmark lawsuit. The suit, demanding $7 million in damages, named both David Albright and Sentinel Solutions as defendants. The specific claims were extensive: racial discrimination, intentional infliction of emotional distress, false imprisonment due to Albright blocking her entry, and negligence on the part of Sentinel Solutions for failing to adequately train, supervise, and discipline Albright despite his well-documented history of misconduct. The complaint meticulously detailed Albright's 11 prior complaints, painting a damning picture of a company that had repeatedly ignored warning signs. It argued that Sentinel Solutions had created an environment where such discriminatory behavior was not only tolerated, but implicitly encouraged through a lack of meaningful accountability. The pressure mounted, with the video continuing to dominate headlines and public discourse. Sentinel Solutions found itself in an untenable position, facing a public relations nightmare, the threat of losing lucrative county contracts, and the undeniable evidence of Albright's pattern of behavior. The company entered into mediation. On November 28th, less than 6 weeks after the incident, a settlement was reached. Sentinel Solutions agreed to pay Lena Harmon a staggering $7 million. It was at the time the largest settlement in history for a single incident of racial discrimination and harassment involving a private security guard contracted by a public entity. The settlement sent a clear, unequivocal message. The cost of unaddressed bias and corporate negligence would be immense. As for David Albright, his fate was sealed even before the settlement. Supervisor Jensen's immediate suspension was followed by a formal internal investigation that meticulously reviewed his entire disciplinary history. On October 25th, 1 week after the incident, David Albright received his termination letter. It read, in part, "Your conduct on October 17th, 2023, involving Assistant District Attorney Lena Harmon, in conjunction with your documented history of professional misconduct and violations of company policy, demonstrates a fundamental inability to perform your duties as a security officer with the requisite professionalism and respect for the public we serve. Effective immediately, your employment with Sentinel Solutions is terminated for cause." Furthermore, Sentinel Solutions, under pressure from the county, moved to have Albright State Security Guard license decertified, effectively ending his career in private security. Justice for Albright had finally arrived. Lena Harmon's testimony, delivered with quiet strength during a press conference following the settlement announcement, resonated deeply. Standing before a phalanx of cameras and microphones, her voice steady, she articulated the profound impact of the incident. "If this can happen to me," she began, her gaze sweeping across the room, "a black woman with advanced degrees, a decade of public service, and official credentials, then what hope do we offer to those who do not possess my platform, my legal representation, or my voice? What message does it send to the young black men and women aspiring to careers in law, in public service, in any field where authority is often wielded by those who may harbor unchecked biases?" Her words were not just about her. They were a powerful indictment of a system that allowed such prejudice to fester. This was not merely an inconvenience. It was a deeply dehumanizing experience, a stark reminder that no matter how much we achieve, how many barriers we break, the shadow of racial bias can still reach out and attempt to diminish us. She emphasized the emotional toll, the erosion of trust, and the constant burden of having to prove one's legitimacy in spaces where it should be inherent. Her testimony wasn't just a personal account. It was a rallying cry for systemic change, a demand for accountability that extended far beyond one security guard. Should an incident of this magnitude, exposing a clear pattern of systemic failure and individual misconduct, trigger a federal investigation into the hiring, training, and oversight practices of security contractors in public institutions nationwide? This was the question that lingered in the minds of many, a call for broader scrutiny. The department findings, released by the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors, were damning. The investigation into Sentinel Solutions revealed a shocking litany of systemic failures. Their internal complaint review process was found to be woefully inadequate, characterized by perfunctory investigations, minimal disciplinary action, and a culture that prioritized avoiding liability over genuine accountability. Training protocols for de-escalation, cultural sensitivity, and recognizing official credentials were superficial and rarely updated. There was a demonstrable lack of diversity within Sentinel's supervisory ranks, contributing to a blind spot regarding discriminatory behavior. Furthermore, the county's own oversight of its contractors was criticized for being too lax, failing to regularly audit performance metrics related to citizen complaints or conduct violations. The system, from the ground up, was broken. In response to these findings, a series of reforms were announced, both by Sentinel Solutions and the County of Los Angeles. Sentinel Solutions, facing the very real threat of losing all its county contracts, committed to a complete overhaul of its internal affairs division, implementing a new, independent review board for all citizen complaints. They pledged to mandate comprehensive, recurring anti-bias and de-escalation training for all personnel, developed in consultation with civil rights organizations. They also announced a significant investment in diversifying their workforce and supervisory staff. The county, for its part, committed to implementing stricter oversight mechanisms for all contracted security services, including regular performance audits, public reporting of complaint data, and a 3 strikes policy for contractors whose employees accumulate a pattern of substantiated misconduct. These reforms, while welcomed, were seen by many as long overdue, a direct consequence of public pressure rather than proactive governance. This case of Assistant District Attorney Lena Harmon and security guard David Albright is a stark, uncomfortable reminder of a broader systemic truth. That bias, when left unchecked, can override even the clearest evidence of identity and authority. It illustrates how positions of power, even those as seemingly minor as a security guard at a courthouse entrance, can be weaponized by prejudice, eroding trust and inflicting profound harm. The consequences for Albright were severe: termination and decertification. For Sentinel Solutions, it was a $7 million settlement and a public mandate for reform. For Lena Harmon, it was a victory, but one born from a deeply painful experience, a victory that highlights the constant vigilance required to combat injustice. What changes now? Will these reforms truly create a safer, more equitable environment, or will they merely serve as temporary bandages on a deeply fractured system? The challenge before us is to ensure that the lessons learned from this incident translate into lasting, meaningful change. We must demand that institutions not only announce reforms, but rigorously implement and monitor them. We must hold those in positions of authority, whether public or private, to the highest standards of conduct and accountability. What policy proposal do you think will be most effective in preventing similar incidents of bias and harassment by security personnel or public officials? Share your ideas in the comments below. We're not stopping our pursuit of these stories, because they are more than just isolated incidents. They are threads in a larger tapestry of injustice that demands our attention, our outrage, and our collective action. It's about Lena Harmon, yes, but it's about all of us, and the fight for a society where dignity and respect are not privileges, but fundamental rights.